Please remain standing for the honors to the nation.
Tanghal! Ta! Kalpunan at mga pinuno, huwag kamay! Na!
Bayang magiliw, pelas ng silanganan. At sa langit mong bughaw, may dilag ang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang kislap ng watawat may tagumpay na nagniningning. Ang bituin at araw niya kailan pa may di magdidilim. Lupa ng araw ng luwalhati't pagsinta, buhay ay langit sa piling mo. Aming ligaya na pag may mga api, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Kalpunan at mga pinuno, mga baba kamay! Na!
Once again, please remain standing.
Baba! Ta!
Let us implore the presence of the Almighty through the invocation to be officiated by the Most Reverend Bishop Oscar P. Florencio, Doctor of Divinity, the Military Ordinariate of the Philippines.
In the sacred silence, we bow our heads and call on God's loving presence and blessings. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Almighty God, we thank you for many blessings upon our great nation. You have given us a bountiful love in which to live.
Excellency Ferdinand Marcos Jr., President, Republic of the Philippines, and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, Congressman Ferdinand Martin G. Romualdez, Speaker of the House of Representatives, Senior Undersecretary Jose C. Pausini Jr., Officer in charge of the Department of National Defense, the Most Reverend Oscar Jaime Florencio, the Military Bishop, Military Ordinariate of the Philippines, Medal of Valor awardees, distinguished guests, friends and partners, colleagues and counterparts, good afternoon. The Armed Forces of the Philippines welcomes you today in the celebration of its 87th anniversary. We are deeply grateful to be spending time with you on this special day. 2022 has been a year of significant transitions and changes for the Republic and for the Armed Forces of the Philippines as well. This year saw a peaceful transition of power in our country's leadership, brought about by the safe and peaceful conduct of our national and local elections in May. In this regard, as we celebrate yet another year in the history of our distinguished military institution, we are deeply honored to be graced by the presence of our President, His Excellency President Ferdinand R. Ramos Jr., who joins us in this year's anniversary celebration for the first time as our Commander-in-Chief. Given the dynamism of our country's security landscape, likewise, I am blessed with the opportunity to contribute to this continuity of policies in our armed forces as the change in our legal institutional policy resulting from RA 11709 will provide the impetus to further pursue our transformation initiatives in the name of public service for the benefit of our country and people. Amidst the change and transformation, what has remained constant is the AFP's singular drive and determination to protect our people and secure our state. Therefore, the theme of our 87th anniversary celebration, Kaisa ng buong sambayanan tungo sa mapayapa, matatag at maunlad na Pilipinas, perfectly captures how we straddle multiple goals in order to be a force for good in our country. Peace, resilience, and progress are goals and aspirations that we in the armed forces strive to contribute and to achieve. This is apparent in the key milestones and victories that we have reached this year, particularly in decreasing the capability of the communist terrorist groups and in the AFP game-changer assets acquired through our modernization program. And so, it is only fitting that I share with you the current state of our armed forces. Internal security operations. Internal security operations are of prime importance to ensure the safety and security of our citizens against spoilers of peace and lawless elements. On this front, we can confidently state that we have achieved a strategic victory, and it is inching closer towards victory against terrorism. Our localized peace-building efforts with a multi-stakeholder and whole-of-nation approach also yielded positive results as we encourage enemies of the state to return to the fold of the law and build goodwill with communities. As much as we put premium on guarding our people and territory against threats from within, our external security operations ensure that our country and people are safe from pressure and aggression from outside. We know that this is the cornerstone of sovereignty. The aerial and surface patrols we have conducted this year, the air access denials we have issued to counter intrusion and aggression, and our efforts to establish littoral monitoring stations along more parts of our country attest to this. We also made strides in the modernization of our armed forces through the acquisition of capable and state-of-the-art ground, air, sea assets. These are all part of our efforts to contribute to the achievement of a credible defense posture for our country. We recognize our own capacity to defend our country and believe we can do this with utmost commitment. However, in an interconnected world where security threats transcend borders, building bridges instead of burning them is very, very important. This is where our international defense and security engagement are instructive. We continued our efforts to fortify our ties with partner nations in the ASEAN, in the Indo-Pacific region, and globally through international fora and dialogues. We also conducted training, military exchanges, and joint combined exercises. These opportunities allowed us to learn from our international counterparts, have our voice heard on the global stage, and conduct defense diplomacy purposefully and rationally. The AAP's competencies are not anchored only on warfighting, as we are also strengthening our non-conventional military roles. Therefore, addressing non-traditional security threats are also integral to our mission. It was evident this year as we emerged from the pandemic and responded to the natural disasters and calamities that befell our country. We have proudly demonstrated that there are no crises that we are not able to address, and that we are at the minute summoned, ready to extend our helping hand should disaster and calamities strike. All of this said, I would like to emphasize that the AAP's accomplishments were not possible if not for the dedication and commitment of our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines. I tip my hat to our gallant personnel, as the recognition and the glory belong to them, the heart, the soul, and the spirit of our institution. Such is the bravery of our men and women, that some of them gave the ultimate sacrifice in pursuit of our noble aspirations. May I request everyone to please stand and to take a moment of silence to honor the brave men who paid the ultimate sacrifice this year. May their sacrifices further inspire us to do our best and make sure that our best indeed matters. This is also the occasion to express our deep gratitude to our President, His Excellency Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr., and to the Vice President, Sara Duterte, for the trust and confidence and for understanding our plight, always looking out for and uplifting our morale and welfare. In return, you can count on the same zeal and commitment from the Armed Forces of the Philippines in ensuring the safety, the integrity, and the security of our country. To our legislators, especially Senate President Juan Miguel Zubiri and House Speaker Ferdinand Martin Romualdez, we are very thankful for your openness in hearing the reasons behind our priority legislative measures and, of course, for understanding our fiscal needs. We are also grateful to the Department of National Defense for their collective guidance and sound policy advice. To our stakeholders and partners, from local government units, religious, civil societies, and the grassroots communities, our immense thanks for bringing us closer to the hearts of our people. Your role as effective catalyst for change, peace, and progress are very much appreciated by the Armed Forces of the Philippines. When I assumed the leadership of the AAP last August 8, I stated my personal mantra right at this very podium: to do common things uncommonly well. And upon reflection at the helm of our institution, I realized that there is nothing common in our roles and duties as soldiers of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. Our decision to join this institution, no matter what our ranks are or branches of service, whether we are officers, enlisted personnel, or civilian human resource, springs from a calling, a decision to forego some of life's comfort to serve our country and our people. Thus, I urge all of you to keep marching on to do common things we do uncommonly well. Soon, Mr. President, we will unveil a new campaign plan, a plan that will assist in setting the stage for the attainment of genuine unity, synergy, and peace for our country. As we look forward to the dawn of the new year, rest assured that we will remain hard at work operationally and strategically and in sustaining our gains made these years. We all witnessed the AFP accomplish an inordinate amount of good work. Thus, this has been an uncommonly good year for the armed forces of the Philippines. Let us look forward to many more under the guidance and leadership of our beloved President. Mabuhay ang sandatahang lakas ng Pilipinas, mabuhay ang sambayanang Pilipino. Maraming salamat at happy 87th anniversary sa sandatahang lakas ng Pilipinas.
Thank you very much, the Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, Lieutenant General Bartolome Vicente O. Bacaro.
Well, from here, we'll witness the presentation of awards. AFP personnel who showed commendable performance and other individuals who supported and contributed to the accomplishment of the AFP's mission will be presented with by the Officer in Charge of the Department of National Defense, Senior Undersecretary Jose Faustino Jr., and the Chief of Staff, Armed Forces of the Philippines, Lieutenant General Bartolome Vicente O. Bacaro.
For conspicuous acts of courage and gallantry during a fierce encounter against 38 fully armed terrorist group on 28 November 2017, which resulted in the neutralization of 14 communist terrorists. The Distinguished Conduct Star is hereby presented to Colonel Joel A. Lobitanya, Officer-11776, Philippine Army.
For conspicuous acts of courage and gallantry during a series of encounters against more or less 40 communist terrorists at Barangay Giboon, Esperanza, Agusan del Sur on 30 April 2020, which resulted in the neutralization of 2 communist terrorists and the recovery of 21 high-powered firearms. The Distinguished Conduct Star is hereby presented to Technical Sergeant Joseph H. Kulibayan, H39244, Infantry, Philippine Army.
For conspicuous acts of courage and gallantry in action during an encounter against more or less 15 fully armed members of the communist terrorist group in Ifugao on 24th of May 2022, the Gold Cross Medal is hereby presented to Second Lieutenant Elvin U. Arcilia, Officer-20477, Philippine Army.
For acts of heroism in the face of great risk to life as a member of the 36th Marine Company, Marine Battalion Landing Team 6, 2nd Marine Brigade, Philippine Marine Corps, Philippine Navy, during the conduct of rescue operations to save the passengers of motor launch Murada engulfed in flames while traversing the waters of Sapa-Sapa, Tawi-Tawi on 29 August 2021. The Bronze Cross Medal is hereby presented to First Lieutenant Albert M. Rempillo, Officer-18729, Philippine Navy Marines.
For selfless acts of bravery amid threats against his own safety in the conduct of relief and rehabilitation, clearing and recovery operations and other activities in the aftermath of Super Typhoon Odette, which greatly devastated the Visayan region, Palawan and areas in northern Mindanao from 16 December to 16 January of 2022. The Bronze Cross Medal is hereby presented to Senior Master Sergeant Reagan D. Ramirez, 785-289, Philippine Air Force.
for having been adjudged as the Armed Forces of the Philippines Enlisted Personnel of the Year 2022. The plaque of recognition is hereby presented to Staff Sergeant Jed N. Gonzalez, 870530, Philippine Air Force.
For having been adjudged as the Armed Forces of the Philippines Civilian Human Resource Supervisor Category of the Year 2022, the plaque of recognition is hereby presented to Mr. Emeterio A. Ornedo Jr.
For having been adjudged as the Armed Forces of the Philippines Civilian Human Resource Employee Category of the Year 2022, the plaque of recognition is hereby presented to Engineer Remy C. Antipon.
For having been adjudged as the Armed Forces of the Philippines Reserve Officer Training Corps Male Cadet of the Year 2022, the plaque of recognition is hereby presented to Cadet Colonel Harvick John P. Mathis, First Class. Likewise, a plaque of recognition is presented to PATS College of Aeronautics for its outstanding support being the educational institution of Cadet Colonel Mathis. The plaque will be received by Miss Marian M. Bartolome.
For having been adjudged as the Armed Forces of the Philippines Reserve Officer Training Corps Female Cadet of the Year 2022. 2. Midshipwoman Captain Angeline P. Aro, First Class. Likewise, a plaque of recognition is presented to University of Cagayan Valley for its outstanding support being the educational institution of Midshipwoman Captain Aro. The plaque will be received by Dr. Esther Susan N. Perez Bari. Well, congratulations to all the awardees. Thank you very much, His Excellency Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. Thank you also to House Speaker Martin Romualdez, to the Officer in Charge, Department of National Defense, and to the Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, a round of applause for all the awardees.
At this juncture, the guest of honor will now be introduced by the Officer in Charge of the Department of National Defense, Senior Undersecretary Jose C. Faustino Jr.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the Republic of the Philippines, His Excellency Ferdinand Romualdez Marcos Jr.
Thank you very much, His Sec in Charge, Senior Undersecretary Jun Faustino, House Speaker Martin Romualdez, AFP Chief of Staff, Lieutenant General Bartolome Bacaro, Most Reverend, please take your seats, the Most Reverend Bishop Oscar Jaime Florendo, Excellencies and other members of the Diplomatic Corps, the Honorable Members of the Cabinet, the Honorable Members of the Senate and the House of Representatives, fellow workers in government, other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Before I proceed, will you give the command for Tikas Pahinga?
Tikas! Nga! Wala po na. Tikas! Nga!
Good afternoon. To the men and women of the Philippine Armed Forces, my greetings on the occasion of your 87th anniversary. This year marks an important milestone for our armed forces. After a 2-year slump, we can now finally celebrate in numbers the gallantry of the Filipino soldier who fought for nearly a century to keep the peace, uphold democratic ideals, and defend our country. As one of the pillars of our national security, our armed forces have never failed us. The pandemic may have upended lives and livelihoods, but you have remained steadfast, not just in the fulfillment of duty, but also in assisting the government in fighting this insidious, unseen war. The country and its people are forever grateful to you for your service. For years, growth in the regions has been held back by the presence of communist terrorists, lawless elements who hamper the delivery of government services and infrastructure development. Through your efforts, along with other law enforcement authorities and government agencies, we now see a significant decline in their numbers, and that you have helped to pave the way for development, to foster and for communities to live in peace. In recent years, our country has been experiencing extreme weather events that at times have crippled cities, provinces, the entire nation. In these scenarios, your support to humanitarian assistance and disaster response efforts through mobilizing assets and the immediate deployment of personnel has saved very many lives. The world we live has changed. Apart from climate change-related disasters, we are now confronted with a different and complex security environment. It brings with it new challenges that require us to adapt. I laud the armed forces for sustaining your existing defense and security engagements whilst exploring new areas for cooperation with your counterparts overseas. New security challenges do not recognize borders, and we must continue to work with our neighbors, our allies, partners, and friends to address mutual security concerns. And aside from these partnerships, the armed forces needs to have in its arsenal the capabilities to effectively combat threats and to secure the country, all its more than 7,000 islands and all its features. My marching guidance has always remained constant. We commit to the cause of peace. The security and stability of the country remains the priority. I call on you to continue performing your duties as you have had for many, many years, and competently so that our country can achieve peace and security and sustain economic prosperity. Rest assured, to all the AFP and all the uniformed services, that this administration remains committed to the modernization of the AFP. We will be partners. We will be partners towards your vision of a strong, credible, world-class armed force that is a source of national pride and a source of national security. Hindi lingid sa aking kaalaman ang sakripisyo ng ating hukbo at ang panganib na kanilang hinaharap sa tawag ng tungkulin. Kaya naman, bukod sa kagamitan, patuloy natin susuportahan ang kanilang pangangailangan. As your Commander-in-Chief, I join the entire nation in expressing our profound and sincere gratitude to your unwavering loyalty and service to the country, to the Constitution, and to our people. Isang maligaya at makabuluhang anibersaryo sa ating lahat. Sumasa inyo ang aking pinakamataas na pagpupugay. Maraming salamat po. Mabuhay po ang AFP.
Thank you very much to President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. Please be seated. A memento will be presented to the guest of honor and speaker, the President of the Republic of the Philippines. It will be presented by the Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, Lieutenant General Bartolome Vicente O. Bacaro. The memento, the glass soldier, which symbolizes the unsullied passion of Filipino soldiery and inspired support for the stability of the government in fulfilling its sworn mandate to the motherland and the Filipino people. This carries the weight of the decades-long struggle of our forefathers and predecessors to defend the nation's sovereignty from oppressors and adversaries. Well, thank you very much to His Excellency. In a few moments, we'll have the high-speed pass of the FA-50PH aircraft, called sign Bulldog of the Philippine Air Force. The FA-50PH is a supersonic lead-in fighter aircraft. The aircraft has a maximum speed of 1.56 times the speed of sound and has a digital avionics system with a proven air superiority capability for air-to-air and air-to-ground combat.
It also has the capability for counter-air operations, maritime patrol, close air support, maritime strike, battlefield air interdiction, and armed escort. The FA-50PH had been the primary air asset that was utilized during combat air operations in Marawi City against the ISIS-inspired terrorists. To this date, the aircraft, tagged as Agila ng Pilipinas, have proven to be the most lethal weapon system able to perform a diverse and versatile role in performing air defense and surface attack for the Philippine Air Force.
Well, the aircraft are being piloted by the following. We have Majors Judy Valera and Malbert Makiling, Captains Leandro Rolando Merli Jr. and Hubert Kate Feliciano. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, the FA-50PH aircraft, tagged as the Agila ng Pilipinas. Well, we also would like to acknowledge the other pilots of the FA-50PH. We have Major Elpidio Abuan Jr., First Lieutenant Ed Ann Espallardo, Major Ronolf Ausa, Captain Theodore Carl B. Quijano. Once again, a big hand for all the pilots of the FA-50PH.
Ladies and gentlemen, we shall now proceed with the pass in review.
Ano po na sa malikod ko? Cut! Pasamasid! Sa kanang balikat. Ha! Talupad, unang talupad. Pasulong. Pinuno, pasulong.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, let us now ponder on this year's anniversary theme, AFP at 87, kaisa ng buong sambayanan, tungo sa mapayapa, matatag, at maunlad na Pilipinas. Truly, the armed forces of the Philippines could always be counted on by the nation and by its people. It has demonstrated its solemn vow and devotion to duty, as the protector of the people in the state, contributing its share in unity with the nation towards a peaceful, steadfast, resilient, and progressive Philippines.
Likewise, the Armed Forces of the Philippines will stand fair and square behind the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Philippines for peace and unity towards a developed and great nation. Ladies and gentlemen, let us now take a glimpse on the parade of the various contingents of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. Ang mga makabagong katipunero, makadiyos, makakalikasan, makatao at makabansa. Leading the parading contingent is Rear Admiral Renato P. David, his staff, Captains Jonathan Salvilla and Jose Petilla, Colonels Gary Atienza, Augusto Padua, Redentor Mojares, and Stephen Ducusi.
Following is the AFP Composite Band under the baton of Technical Sergeant Donnie Ising. The 1st Brigade is headed by Brigadier General Romeo Jerome Dirillo with his staff, Lieutenant Colonels Von Ryan Timbang, Agripino Poblete, Marlon Graciano,
Talo-talopat, walang
Commanders
talopat,
John
pasulong!
and Crispin Malibira.
Pasulong. God.
First Battalion from the prestigious Philippine Military Academy, the Cadet Corps of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, led by Cadet Captain John Troy Alban of Davao del Norte, his staff, Dexter Ariola of Taguig, Thomas Awoyang of Batangas, Keith Vitor Cebu, Kim Agatep Cebu, and Nicole Sarmiento of Butuan City. These young male and female cadets are the future leaders of the Armed Forces of the Philippines from the different regions of the archipelago.
Following is the contingent from the Philippine Army represented by the Security and Escort Battalion under Major Fabian Ranet with his staff Major Arbutante, Major Cuit, Captain Ignacio, and Major Soria. The Army has been a beacon of hope and progress. It has contributed to strengthening Filipino institutions, communities, and individuals by advocating for personal governance and by rebuilding itself into an organization loved by the people.
Next, we have the contingent from the Protectors of the Philippine Seas, the Philippine Navy. The Navy secures our territorial waters and conducts sea lift operations in support of our troops, performs mercy missions, rescue and relief operations during calamities, and protects our marine resources and environment.
The contingent from the Angels of Mercy, the Guardians of the Philippine Skies, and the first line of defense, the Philippine Air Force, led by Lieutenant Colonel Vic Anthony C. Robles, with his staff Majors Ronquillo, Alexander Ilagan, Yusuf Tang, and Henry Allen Galvan. The Philippine Air Force is primarily tasked to secure our country's airspace as a forward defense shield. They conduct search, rescue, and relief operations during calamities.
The audience is requested to rise for the passing of the national colors. Thank you. Please be seated. Following is the AFP massed colors, consist of the Major Service Commands, Unified Commands, and the AFP-wide service support units.
The 2nd Brigade is under the command of Brigadier General Danilo Benavides with his staff, Lieutenant Colonels Richie J. Bisco, Melvin Madayag, Navy. The force recognizes forces of the Philippine Navy. The force recognizes Group, the Naval Special Operations Command, and the Marine Battalion Landing Team headed by Lieutenant Colonel Lloyd Ian M. Kagampan with his staff, Lieutenants Cody Vincent Bongkak, Melbert Fernando, Majors Ian Villesa and Jean Paul San Gabriel. The Naval Special Operations Command is capable of conducting maritime special operations, which include high-risk visit, board search and seizure, gas and oil platform takedown and retaking.
The 710 Special Operations Wing of the Philippine Air Force led by Lieutenant Colonel Nasul Sahili, his staff, Majors Elmer Barcenas, Amandio Gomez, Edmundo de la Cruz, and Captain Jonathan Cave. The 710 conducts special operation and of course performs other contingency operations in support to the Philippine Air Force mission. This time, we have the contingent consists of the AFP peacekeepers, medical personnel, and humanitarian assistance and disaster response operators under the command of Lieutenant Colonel Wilbert Basquinas. His staff, Majors Melvin Diploma, Glenn De Ramos, Ronnie Sicad, and Lieutenant Colonel Benavides. The AFP peacekeepers respond to foreign conflict-stricken areas conducting peacekeeping operations. They are ambassadors to global